Okay, everyone, welcome to Group versus Solo Travel, another one of our SafetyWing webinar of 2018, where we explore various issues that nomads face while traveling. Today, we have with us Jordan. Jordan is a remote year program consultant and also a former participant with Remote Year. He will be talking to us today about choosing between group travel versus solo travel. And then at the end, me and him will do a Q&A session where I will ask him some questions that are particularly relevant for the SafetyWing audience. So the floor is yours, Jordan.
Awesome, Sander. Thanks so much for having me today, and thanks everybody who's going to be watching this webinar. Before I spent my time traveling the world, I was working a corporate 9-to-5 like many people that are now digital nomads. And while I was really grateful for that experience, I realized that I had a deep desire to build a career around a lifestyle of travel. And I wanted the full locational independence. I wanted freedom of where I could be during the day. And I knew that great work could be done from anywhere. So honestly, I didn't know and wasn't sure if that was possible, but over the last 10 years, I've moved more times than I can count. Lived on 3 different continents, probably moved close to 20, 25 times. And during that entire process, I've been a mobile employee. That meant that sometimes I had to go to customer sites, but I was still technically remote in some ways. And then within the past 2 years, I've been completely locational independent, meaning I didn't have to be on site anywhere with customers or with an organization. I was able to explore the world. And I've done different explorations. I actually did the first 4-month program that Remote Year ever offered. And I ended up traveling through Europe and Africa, and throughout the rest of my travels, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Asia, I've been to Canada, of course, the United States, and Latin America is where I'm going to be starting off 2019 in Lima, Peru. So I'm a person who really thrives off of the place outside of my comfort zone. And I'm in a constant pursuit of self-awareness through locational independence. I think a lot of us can learn a lot about ourselves by being digital nomads. Now, what Remote Year does is we curate communities of professionals, entrepreneurs, freelancers from across the globe who want to spend either 4 or 12 months traveling together, working and exploring different cities every single month. And what I do is I guide potential community members in the program selection and also help them prep to travel the world without quitting their day job. And Sander, if you can go back up one slide there. And what we're going to talk about today is really about the difference between joining a community and traveling alone. And those are both things that I've done in various different aspects. And actually, I want to preface the fact that being a nomad in general comes in a lot of different forms, right? It comes in a lot of shapes, a lot of different sizes, a lot of different types of people. And there's no absolute right way to be a nomad. I don't think that there's even a wrong way either. I think that, you know, what we're going to cover today is some experiences that I've had, solo versus group, and in particular, groups on Remote Year, and then talk about some of the advantages, some of the disadvantages. And what I think is important to know is that Remote Year is not for everybody. Neither is traveling solo. But what we're comparing in this webinar will be some of the common pains that we hear at Remote Year and how we address those and offer a solution to those. And just to preface, and the disclaimer is here because I feel like I'm weird sometimes because I'm extremely individualistic. I like traveling alone, but I also like and enjoy having a community and having a group that I can lean into when I need to. And at the end of the day, again, there's no wrong way with being a nomad. And I think that you could do both. I think that you could travel alone. I think you could spend some time with community and groups. And I think that a mix somewhere in between is really what I enjoy. So what we're going to talk about today is understanding why people choose to travel in a group, specifically with us here at Remote Year. We'll go ahead to the next one. So what our mission is, and really we have different age groups that come under Remote Year. It's pretty much from ages 21 to 70, which is kind of crazy to think about, that there's that kind of an age gap. But I think the important thing to realize is that our community is filled with people that believe that a more peaceful and productive world can happen when there's genuine human connection across diverse cultures and people. And that's been the mission that we've set out to accomplish the past about 4 years. through more than 40 programs, through close to 1,500 people who've done our programs. We'll go to the next one, Sander. And the first thing we want to talk about is accommodations. So when you're thinking about traveling, especially as a digital nomad and putting time and energy into planning your accommodations, you get what you pay for. You get the flexibility of choice when you go and choose alone, and you can move from place to place, and all that is awesome. What you may be sacrificing is if you do stay in hostels, you might not have your own space. You might not have really a quiet place to kind of unwind. And if you stay in apartments, you may miss out on some of the community of some of the shared spaces in different ways. If you are prioritizing your privacy, you might miss out on fun activities and different cultural experiences, again, with that shared environment. But I think what we try to overcome at Remote Year is offering people their time back from searching and trying to figure out how to coordinate different accommodations in the right areas in countries that maybe they've never been to. Because it takes time to research that. And you don't always want to just go with the cheapest option. You want to make sure that you're in an area that is going to be okay for you to live in and is going to support your particular needs. We'll go to the next one, Sander. What we do at Remote Year as far as group accommodations is try to give you peace of mind, because we have local operations teams that are choosing the different neighborhoods that are near the workspace, that are near restaurants, they're near coffee shops and different things, so that you can be immersed, but you also don't have to put in all that time trying to understand, what neighborhood do I want to live in? You always have a private room within Remote Year accommodations. You will oftentimes, well, private room, what does that mean? That means a door, right? And you'll oftentimes be in an Airbnb type apartment situation. You'll have a kitchen, you'll have linens, you'll have different things that are kind of the basic necessities to make sure that you can live and operate and be successful. And you'll always be within walking distance of one of our workspaces, which we're going to touch on in a little bit as well. We'll go to the next one. Awesome. So getting work done solo, there's a lot of trial and error. There are great apps out there, I think, that serve the purpose of finding good coffee shops. Some countries have Yelp, some countries have Work From. There's a lot of different people that like to cafe hop. I'm one of those. I don't like to sit in just one place. I like to kind of go to different areas and check out different scenes and just see, where is a good place to work. There's a lot of different Facebook groups that talk about different places to work from and can be location specific. One thing that I do struggle with personally is, because I do a lot of phone calls, is having good, reliable internet and also having a non-noisy background. So a lot of these cafes that I go to, I end up in a corner somewhere, or I have to sit outside and there's no outlet. So there's a lot of different variables to what my needs are versus what someone else's needs might be. But a lot of times we can have frustrating experiences with cafes we've never been to. Maybe that, again, the outlets aren't convenient. The Wi-Fi isn't really, really strong. And, maybe it's full. But not only that, generally a lot of cafes kind of frown upon you going there and not buying anything, right? And having to sit there, and kind of the awkwardness of oh, I should maybe just get a coffee. And maybe you want to get a coffee, but that's great. But that stuff can add up if you don't have a consistent workspace to go to and you're having to buy coffee and treats every single place that you go to. So we'll keep going, Sander. Thank you. So as far as getting work done in a group and traveling with a group like Remote Year, what we offer are shared co-working spaces. So we partner with workspaces in every single city that we go to that are open 24/7. So even if you're working those weird, funky hours, you can go in there and you're going to have access. We're going to have reliable internet and always have backups to that. So in case something goes down, you're going to have hotspots, that sort of thing. And really, you're going to have a community around you to kind of inspire you to work as well. I think sometimes it's often when we run into people at co-working spaces that a lot of magic can happen. You can end up collaborating with someone that you never would have met otherwise. You can learn different skills from someone who works in a different industry. And just having that kind of camaraderie of, the late night workspace in Lisbon, for instance. For me, I was working in US hours, but there was people at my workspace that also worked US hours. So we grabbed dinner afterwards, right? And that's not uncommon for people in Europe to eat dinner at 11 p.m. So it worked out perfectly to have that community there. And I escaped some of the isolation that I felt when I've traveled in the past without other people. We'll go to the next one. Awesome. So when you do travel logistics, so planning your flights, planning, all the in-between travel, the taxis, that sort of thing, can be stressful. And It's one of my least favorite things to do, because really there's not a ton of, let's just say, ROI in like planning all your flights and doing all those things. Yeah, you can save some money if you choose one flight over the other. Maybe you want to gain some miles by choosing a particular airline. But what we try to take off people's hands is the time that it takes to figure out, oh, which airport goes to this airport, what's the easiest route, what are all these things, and then actually going through the booking process. And we have an accredited internal travel team at Remote Year that does all this for you, and we take care of the transfers to and from the airport. So someone picks you up the morning of your travel day, and they take you to the airport, they pick you up at the airport, they take you to your next place. So there's just a lot of those little decisions that you don't have to make. And that's what we're trying to take off the table for some people who really value their time, is how many little minutiae decisions are you making per day, and how can we take that off of your plate? And I think that that's an awesome part of traveling with a group. And that goes right into kind of the stress-free nature of being able to travel with 30 of your closest friends, your family, your tramily is what we call travel family. And being able to have those really crazy layovers at airports with a bunch of people that you can grab a meal with, grab a drink with, and just hang out. It makes it a lot more fun. And really that door-to-door convenience is there. And even if you had deviations that you wanted to take from a Remote Year destination, you could use our internal travel team to help you book that. We'll go to the next one, Sander. As far as freedom and experience, this comes up a lot as far as being solo. I think that this is one of the best reasons to do travel solo, is that you just have the freedom to do it whatever you want. You have, all reins are off. You don't have to feel the FOMO of ditching a group and feeling like you have to be part of the group and not part of the group, all that sort of stuff. And just that flexibility is nice. But at the end of the day, it still does take your planning time. So if you're going to do different events or experiences throughout your trips, the buck stops with you, right? You have to figure out what is the cheapest way to do something. Who do I need to contact? How do I need to search that up on the internet? All those things take time, and the research takes time. So we'll go to the next one, Sander, and I'll explain Remote Year's experience. So we really wanted to hone in and smoothen out our operations and make sure that the experience in each of the cities that we go to is awesome and that you have a really good time. And part of that is the people that surround you, right? Is having lifelong bonds, travel memories with people that are with you for 4 or 12 months. And you can still do your own thing. Remote Year provides a structure. We provide a framework. And that's really what we want to highlight for people, is that the Remote Year situation is not a study abroad where you're required to go to these classes and you're required to be around these people. Yeah, you're going to want to be around your group, but there's going to be times when you want to go off solo and you maybe want to go explore the city and walk around. Maybe you want to take a side trip to a neighboring country. You want to do all these different things. And I think that's totally fine. We're all professionals. We all have work that we're doing. We're all adults that can make those decisions for ourselves. And it's awesome when you see people, rejuvenate themselves by doing things alone. But just the group dynamics of sharing meals, sharing coffees, sharing experience, which is a crazy experience for a lot of people, and a life-changing experience at that, can be just an awesome thing to do. And we'll go to the next one. Awesome. As far as community, how do you find community when you're solo? A lot of times we have Facebook groups that are great for digital nomads, and you can pop into those. There's Slack groups. There's all sorts of online tools that kind of help you connect to people in local areas, and that's awesome. And I think that that's a hugely great resource. I think at the end of the day, if you're using a meetup, for instance, or something else, you still have to have the energy to go and meet people. And I think that's one thing that we as a society, we often forget, is it's not always about the amount of time that we have, but it's the amount of energy we have. And if you're working every single day, your regular job, and you're working 8 to 10 hours, whatever it is, and then you have to go and expend all this effort to try and meet like-minded people, it's just a lot of work. So having that pre-built community really helps people, because you're not having to expend all the energy trying to qualify if people are going to be a good fit for you to meet. A lot of the people that come onto the Remote Year are of the same mindset, and they're going to be good people to collaborate with. They're going to be people that you're likely to be friends with. So just knowing that you have a common bond up front eliminates a lot of energy and time of you going out and trying to find other people to relate to. So there's definitely both sides of the picture there. We'll go to the next slide, Sander. And again, having a network of travelers. So Remote Year has about 1,500 people that have done programs, that are on programs, staff, all that, and that are part of this larger community. So when you go to most major cities around the world, there are people that are either traveling there or people that are stationed there that are affiliated with Remote Year. So what's really cool is even if you're not traveling on a program, you can use it in the United States, internationally, anywhere, to kind of pinpoint and say, hey, does anybody live here? Hey, can I stay on your couch? Hey, you want to grab a meal? And we have an internal Slack, a private Slack group that facilitates all that interaction. So it's just a really awesome opportunity to have resources. We also have a job board, and we have different frequently asked questions for people that travel. We have people that work as attorneys and tax advisors, and you have all these different resources available to you. And you can also use any of our activities or events once you're within the community. So it's just an awesome network and group for you to leverage. Investment. So obviously Remote Year costs money. It's $2,000 at the time of this webinar, it's $2,000 per month. We also have an upfront fee that acts as your one-time down payment. Now, when we talk about what cost versus investment is you're investing not only into the program and the different things that we offer, but you're investing in yourself because you're freeing up time. And this is one of the biggest things that people will overlook when they look at cost and investment. So I took a little snippet of Catherine's article here when she talked about like her weekly load, and she's a freelancer, so her time has monetary value. So at a freelancer, the $2,000 monthly fee is quickly offset because she figures that she would have been spending between 12 and 40 monthly hours on work activities and different types of planning. So there's kind of these tangible things and these untangible things, and you can definitely live cheaper. Like if your biggest priority is to live super cheap abroad, Remote Year is not for you. That's not who we're targeting as people that want to come into our community. We're opening our community to people that really see a value in their time and want some of these things taken care of for them. So, and there's different types of people that fit within that realm. So take a look at Catherine. She has a really, really great article that I've linked in the presentation as well. What's the summary here? So one is that efficiency means that more structure and more discipline equals more freedom. So ironically, when we structure our lives and we add discipline to our lives and more things to kind of organize ourselves, we actually have more freedom. And this is more discipline equals more freedom is a big mantra of Jocko Willink. I don't know if a lot of people know who that is who are watching this, but look him up. He's a Navy SEAL commander and someone who writes about, you know, being able to structure yourself and make sure that you apply discipline to your life. I think that it provides more freedom to have an actual structure. And time is money. Remote Year handles logistics. You know, we give you time back, and if you assign a monetary value to your time, you usually come out ahead with Remote Year investment, and you come out with some lifelong friends. And that leads me to number 3. It's about the people. Travel is great because you get to see awesome places, but travel is also great because you meet awesome people. And the community that Remote Year has to offer gives you so many awesome people that are like-minded about travel, about personal and professional growth, and about digital nomadism, that many of the people find that the community is the most important part for them. And this is a quote from Rachel Yancey, and I'll just read it real quick. I took the leap to join Remote Year nearly 11 months ago, and I wouldn't change that decision for a single second. The amount of life-changing experiences, friends, and growth, both professionally and personally, have been more than I could have ever expected. Take the leap, you won't regret it. Even if you do a 4-month program with Remote Year, you're gonna get a ton out of it. That's how my life started. Before I worked for Remote Year, I went on a program, like I said, and I traveled solo before that. So there's a lot of different things to take into consideration, but would you regret it? Would you regret even going on a 4-month program, meeting some amazing people, and look back at that experience and what would you say about it? I think most people would enjoy it. If you want to contact me directly with questions, this link you can follow here. And Sandra, I know that you wanted to do a couple here at the end as well.
Yes, thanks, Jordan. That was really good, and I think a lot of people watching definitely will be inspired to do it. So I had a couple of questions. I suppose the type of questions you've heard a lot, but that I'm just curious about during your talk. The one is, I was wondering about events. So people can do kind of what they want to do to some degree, but they choose to hang out. Are there also like organized events during a month in a city?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have different types of events. One of those categories of events is called track events. So track events are locally curated and inspired cultural events that we do for every group that comes in each month. And depending on the city, those are going to look a little bit different, but they're usually around either art, culture, food, nature, things that get you immersed. So for example, we did one in South Africa in Cape Town where we drove out to the coast, the more western part of the coast from Cape Town, and we went to Betty's Bay, and there's penguins there. So we went and visited this penguin, I don't know if it's called a sanctuary, but a penguin, where they held a bunch of penguins. I didn't realize that penguins were not in ice. Like penguins were just walking around the beach like normal. It was kind of funny. And then we go back to this couple's place, and we're with this couple, and we learn how to make bread. We ended up going and foraging for periwinkles, which are little like clam type species that you can grind up and make into cakes. So kind of like crab cakes. And we make this whole extravagant meal from things that we foraged ourselves. We end up seeing the penguins and some of the other animals that were local to that area. And it was just like an all-day event, and they drove us out there, they drove us back, and it was just a really cool thing because I don't think you would have been able to experience that in a lot of cases otherwise, to be with this local family and kind of sit down for a meal with them, learn about, you know, their area and how they survive off of the land. So that was really cool. And then we have other ones where maybe you're creating a tile, like in Lisbon, we have this one where you learn how to paint tiles, and you're also eating tapas. So it's kind of like this art and food combination. And each person that comes onto our program gets an allocation of those types of events with their monthly fee. So there's no extra expense to get those events as well.
Cool. Another question that I had was, when you travel sort of from place to place, is that organized somehow, or is that like sort of like traveling solo, just sort of simultaneously with other people?
Yeah, so essentially you get yourself to the very first location, you get yourself out of the very last location. That is your responsibility of travel. The rest of the time, your tickets are purchased for you by our internal travel team. That ticket will be waiting for you in the taxi that picks you up the morning that you leave, and you travel as a group. So everybody travels on the same day. Oftentimes we're on the same flight. In fact, one of the flights that we had, I think from Lisbon to Split, Croatia, it was a chartered flight. So it was just all of us on one flight, and we had enough people to basically fill a small plane. So there's times when we have that. There's times where you're gonna, just fly a regular commercial flight, and that stuff's all taken care of for you. So you don't have to worry about it. And again, it's door to door. So they pick you up the morning of, they take you to the airport. They give you your ticket for your flight. All you gotta do is just check your bags, go in, make your flight, and then they pick you up at the next airport.
This last question is maybe not relevant, but I imagine just arriving it. I haven't done the program yet. I think it sounds really cool, and I would love to do it. So I was just thinking, I arrived there. There are 29 other people, and I'm gonna hang out with them, for a year, whether I want to or not. How do you make sure people get along, or like, what do you do if someone doesn't get along? Like, how do you deal with sort of make sure that the group dynamics and
Sure.
relationships are good and positive.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Sander, the groups generally range between 30 and 70 people. So it can be a lot. It can be kind of a wide range of disparity there, but depending on the time of the year, the type of program, that sort of thing. But I'd ask you, how do any group dynamics work, right? Like, do you get along with people at your workplace? Do you get along with people at your local gym? Like, that people are brought together in so many different social group dynamics that I think one thing that we pride ourselves on is bringing together a community of like minds that embody our mission, which is that there's a more peaceful and productive world when we can come together across cultures. So generally, people don't have too many issues. We've had issues certainly in groups, right? And that's the nature of any group. But we're all adults as well. We have a program leader that leads every single group. So there is a remote year staff that is basically with that group for the entirety. So if there's ever really any serious issues, people can go to their program leaders and find some sort of a resolution. And, we've had people that have had to solve disagreements and, figure things out. But oftentimes when you're on a trip for either 4 or 12 months with people, you become a respectful person to the people that are around you, because you know that you're going to see them, more than once, and you don't want to burn those group dynamics, and you want to be a contributor to the community. So I would challenge anyone who says, like, am I going to have any problems on this? Like, what kind of problems do you expect to have? Do you often have problems with people? So a lot of the people are generally super nice and accommodating, and we're all going through this together. You have to imagine that people that come onto this are signing up for the same thing. So when you're going through the same experience with other people like that, you actually draw a bond more often than not.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jordan. And everyone who watches this, make sure to check out the program. How and when can they sign up, and what's the next trip?
Yeah, so we have trips. We have one trip right now that's, depending on when this is released, we have one trip right now that's still available in late January. And then the rest of them are March and April are the first ones that we have available. We fill up between 3 and 6 months in advance. So oftentimes it helps if you get in touch early, and we can work on your timeline and work to get you on a program, whatever that's going to take. We also have what's called an enterprise solutions team. So for people that have employers and they're working for their employer already remotely, and this might take some approval process, we actually have a specialized expert team to help people in bringing this conversation to their employers and getting that approval. Go through my link that is supplied with this webinar and set up a time with me. I'd be happy to talk to you about the different details. And yeah, that's the best way to kind of go about it. Try to get ahead of things, try to plan for it, because oftentimes if you don't plan for something like remote year in your life, it's not going to plan itself for you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jordan. That was very inspiring, and I'm very happy that Remote Year has made this offering. I think that it's kind of structuring digital nomad lifestyle in a way that I think makes it accessible and enjoyable for many more people. So thanks
Awesome.
for that. All right.
Thanks so much, Sander. Appreciate it.